In this video, I'm going to go over finding equations of a line. Now, in order for us to really grasp or review what is really happening here, we have to remember that a linear equation in two variables. So let me just write this out here. So a linear equation in two variables has the form, and this is like the most general form, but it's going to be ax plus by equals c, where a comma b comma and c are real numbers. But a and b cannot both equal 0. All right. So this is what we call standard form. Okay. And it's standard form because both x and y variables are on the same side of the equation. Also, a is allowed to be 0, b is allowed to be 0, but they're not allowed to both equal 0 at the same time. Okay. So you probably saw something like this in the past where it would say something like find the xy intercepts. Let me write that a little cleaner. Find the xy intercepts for 3x minus 4y equals 12. Okay? And what we would have to remember here is at an x-intercept, the coordinates are going to be x comma 0, meaning that this point lies on the x-axis. So lies on the x-axis. At a y-intercept, well, that would have the coordinates 0 comma y, and this will lie or lies on the y-axis. And once you find those 2 points, you could just connect them with a line, and bingo, now you have your not only your intercepts, but you have your line as well. So let's go ahead and let's just finish this here. So I like to do like a little table like this. I'll put x-intercept, y-intercept, so it kind of looks like a little table with 2 columns. And then at the very top, I'm going to say let y equal 0, because remember, at an x-intercept, you were on the x-axis. You did not move up or down at all. So I'm going to take 3x minus 4, substitute in 0 for y, and I'm just going to go ahead and solve this. So I end up with 3x equals 12. Divide both sides by 3 to give me x equals 4. Therefore, my x-intercept is 4 comma 0, and that's the ordered pair. Do the same exact thing for the y-intercept. I'm going to let x equal 0, because remember, at a y-intercept, you moved up or down on the y-axis. You did not move left or right at all. So we let x equal 0. We make our substitution. And then we go ahead and we solve for y. We get negative 4y equals 12. Divide both sides by negative 4 to give me y equals negative 3. So that ordered pair is 0 comma negative 3. Okay? And that is kind of like the review and everything of, well, I guess it's a little bit of review of a linear equation in two variables. Okay? Now, we're going to branch out a little bit further. And that's going to be the title of this section, which is finding equations of a line. There are 2 formulas that you may remember, and they have very special names, and they're very important for us to know. The first one is probably by far the most important, or not most important. Let me say that. I want to say that. Yeah, we'll go most important because, like I said, it's the one everybody remembers. Y equals mx plus b. Now, I'm sure many of us remember this. This has a very special name, though. This is called slope intercept form. And it gets this name because we can easily identify what is the slope and what is the y-intercept. So, for example, slope is going to be the letter m, And then the y-intercept, I'll write this in blue, is going to be 0, comma b. All right. Now, an example of something like this would be find the equation of the line with a slope of -3. I guess I'll zoom out here a little bit so it's all written on one line. Slope of -3 and a y-intercept 0, comma -7. Okay? Well, what's nice is if you can identify what you were given, and in this problem, we were given two things. We were given m equals -3 and 0, comma 7 is our y-intercept. We can use the slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, and we can go ahead and make direct substitutions into this. I can easily say, okay, well, instead of writing the letter m, I'm going to replace it with a -3. And instead of writing the letter b, I'm going to replace it with a -7. So I get y equals -3x minus 7. And that's it. That's as hard as this gets. But the thing you have to remember is, what am I given? If you're given a slope, and this is the most important part. If you're given the slope and the y-intercept, you can use slope-intercept form. Now, there are other ways that I could ask the same exact question here, finding the equation of the line. I can do that. So I'm just going to write out directions, find equation of the line. And instead of giving you information, what I'm going to do is just give you a picture. So I'm going to go ahead and just draw a small one right here. And here is the line that I want us to look at. All right. And it's right there. So I want you to find the equation of this line. Now remember, slope-intercept form. Y equals mx plus b. The easiest point that I can find on this line so far is right here. I'm going to call this our y-intercept because that is where the line crosses the y-axis. And I'm also going to identify that. That is the ordered pair, 0, comma, +1. So I already know over here on the right-hand side, my equation is going to be y equals mx plus 1. Now the question becomes, okay, well, how do you go ahead and get your slope? Now, many of you remember m equals rise over run. And that makes me very sad. All right. And here's why. All right. Rise over run is not wrong. All right. It doesn't give you the entire story. Now, rise over run works in this specific scenario because we have what we call a positive slope. All right. This is a positive slope. I know it's positive because if I'm walking from left to right, I'm going to be walking uphill. So that's a positive slope. All right. The other side of this scenario is going to be covered in the next example. For now, let's just stick with this rise over run thing, even though I'm not the biggest fan of naming it that. So here's how I go ahead and I find the slope for this line that I have. To find slope, we need 2 points. And we have a formula for this. So notice here we have m equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. These little subscripts that I'm highlighting on the board right now, all they refer to is the first point and the second point. That's it. Well, we already have 1 point, 0, comma 1, and that's fantastic. So I'm just going to write that down below here. We have the ordered pair 0, comma 1, and we need another ordered pair. And I gave you a really, really nice one. That ordered pair that I gave you, I'm going to highlight it in blue, is right here. And notice this is my x-intercept. And that is going to be -2, 0. So I have two ordered pairs, which means I can easily find the slope. So I'm going to use my formula. I'm going to substitute into the formula, and then I'm just going to go ahead and simplify. The hardest part is just keeping things simple. No rushing. M equals, I will put parentheses first, then I will make my substitution. The first point is going to be 0, 1. The second point is going to be -2, 0. And there's no reason why I chose it. That's just what I wanted. You can make point 1 and point 2 any points you want as long as they were on the line. So we have y2 minus y1. So that's going to be 0 minus 1, all divided by x2, which is -2, minus x1, which is 0. Now, when I simplify in the numerator, I get -1. In my denominator, I get -2. And we know a negative divided by a negative is a positive 1/2. So not only did I tell you that the slope was positive, but now I actually figured it out. I calculated it, and it turned out to be a positive number. Therefore, the equation of this line in red, and I'm going to write it in the lower left-hand corner of the screen, real nice and big, is going to be y equals 1/2 x plus 1. And there's the equation of my line. Now, that's not the only way I could have done this. If you look at the graph, and let's say, for example, I'm going to erase some of this stuff here. So if you look at the graph, if I'm standing at the x-intercept, all right, and I asked you, hey, how do I get to the next point or the next ordered pair that is highlighted on the graph, all right? The thing to remember here is this. Anytime you give somebody an ordered pair, you're basically giving them directions. You are telling them which way to move, left and right, and then you're also telling them which way to move, up or down. Therefore, if I'm standing at the x-intercept and I asked you, how do I get to this y-intercept? What you would say is, well, move up 1 unit and then move to the right 2 units. So let me highlight that real quick, real fast. We went up 1 unit and then to the right 2 units. And if you remember, and I'm gonna highlight it here for us, if you remember that slope is y2 minus y1, the numerator is going to be your change in the y direction. Change in y. And then the denominator is going to be your change in x. So, hopefully by looking at this, you don't even have to use the formula if you don't want to. Just start at one ordered pair and then go to the other ordered pair. The key to remember is we always read slopes from left to right. All right? That's why I know this is a positive slope. Now, in the next example, it's going to be very similar to this, but I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to speed it up a little bit. So in this example, we're going to find the equation of the line. And here's our line right here. So let me go ahead and just write this out. All right, and I'm going to highlight two very specific points, here and here. All right, and remember, slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b. I can already tell you the y-intercept is 0, positive 3. So that's going to be y equals mx plus 3. The question now becomes, what's my slope? Well, if you think about what I did in the previous example here, if I'm starting at, and I'm going to draw like my little stick figure, if I'm starting at the y-intercept and I asked you, how do I get to the x-intercept? What you will do is you will tell me, Mr. Float, please go down 3 units. 1, 2, 3. Now, since I'm moving in the opposite direction of up or the opposite direction of positive, I know that is going to be a -3 because I'm going down. Okay? Now, I move to the right 1 unit. And that's since I'm moving to the right and those are positive x values, I get +1. So my slope is going to be -3/1. Therefore, my equation of the line is y equals -3x plus 3. And that's it. Now, not everything is all nice and sweet, okay? Sometimes we are giving information that is not exactly ideal. For example, if I asked you to find the equation of the line with the slope of -3/4 and passes through 4, -7. Notice in this scenario, although I'm given a slope 3/4 or -3/4, I'm sorry. So I'm given this m equals -3/4. Like we know that. The problem here is that the ordered pair I was provided is not the y-intercept. This is just an ordinary point. That's all it is. So there are 2 ways to go about this. We could, if we wanted to, we could go back to y equals mx plus b. We could use this, but it's going to require us to use it twice. All right. And we kind of want to avoid creating more work for ourselves. So this is the other equation. All right. And many of you might remember this. Okay. The other equation or the other form is called point slope form. All right. And that looks like this. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And this is universal, meaning you can use this point slope form for any type of line with any type of slope with any type of point. The equation previously slope intercept form is very specific. You must have the slope and you must have the y-intercept. That's the only way you're going to use this. However, down here, it's universal. You can use it with anything. So I'm going to show you how to go ahead and do this. Step number 1. You want to identify the slope. And then in parentheses, I'm going to put, you may have to calculate this. All right. But for us, we're very fortunate. The problem said m equals -3/4. And yes, I will do one where we have to calculate it, so don't worry. So that's our first step. Step number 1 is identify the slope. M equals -3/4. Step number 2, we're going to substitute for m and then the ordered pair x1, y1. So let me write out the formula first. We have y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. We already know, and I'm just going to rewrite this, we already know m equals -3/4. Now, they did provide us with a point. That point was 4, -7. I'm going to scroll up just to make sure. Yeah. Okay? So what this implies is x1 is equal to 4 and y1 is equal to -7. So what I will do is I will substitute these values into the point slope form. So I get y minus -7 equals -3/4 times the quantity x minus 4. And then finally, step 3, we're going to solve for y. So all I'm going to do is just rewrite everything. And I'm going to solve for the variable y, which is highlighted on the screen. In other words, do not touch that. Just move everything to the other side and simplify whatever you can. So the first thing I'm going to do on the left side, I have that double negative, so I make it positive. On the right side, I will distribute -3/4 x plus 3. Finally, I will subtract 10 from both sides to give me y equals -3/4x minus 7. And there's our equation of the line. Okay? Like I said, this is a more universal, all right? But we still get the same result. In fact, what's beautiful about this is by doing it this way, you end up with that slope intercept form, which is what we're really used to seeing. Okay? So let's try another one here. But in this case, like I said, we're going to have to do a little bit of work. All right? So here's an example. We're going to find equation of the line. And the points are going to be, so passes through -4 comma -3 and 1 comma -5. So this is all the information that they're giving us. Now in this scenario, okay, remember step 1, identify slope. Okay? So in this case, the slope was never given to us. And nobody ever said m equals this number. But we know the formula for slope, m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, requires us to use 2 points. And they gave us 2 points. So what I'm going to do on the far right, I'm going to label these 0.1 and 0.2 respectively. And I just chose it left to right. That's it. So m is going to equal, put some parentheses here first, and then I'll make my substitutions. So we got y2, -5, minus y1, -3, all divided by x2, 1, minus x1, -4. So in the numerator, I get -5 plus 3. In my denominator, I get 1 plus 4. And that's going to give me -5 plus 3 is going to be -2 over 5. And that right there is going to be our slope. Okay? So it takes a little bit more time for us to find a slope, but it's doable. Okay? Step 2, we're going to go ahead and substitute. So I'm going to go ahead and just label m equals -2 over 5. And then in the upper right-hand corner, I'm highlighting the 2 ordered pairs that were provided for us. Okay? And the best part is, since we know the line passes through either of these points, it does not matter which one you choose. The only thing that matters is that you pick a pair of numbers that works well for you. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and just choose 1 comma -5. And the reason why? At least I have a positive number 1. That's it. So we have y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And then from here, we make our substitutions. Y minus negative 5 equals negative 2 over 5 times the quantity x minus 1. And then from here, we just go ahead and we solve for y. So that's going to be step number 3. Solve for y. Okay? So I'm going to rewrite the problem exactly the way it looks, and then I will go ahead and do all the math. Perfect. So left-hand side of the equation, you have a double negative. We're going to make that y plus 5. On the right-hand side of the equation, I'm going to go ahead and distribute to give me negative 2 over 5x plus positive 2 over 5. Now I need to subtract 5 from both sides to give me y equals negative 2 over 5x. And if you notice, and I will highlight for us, we have this simplification that needs to happen. Okay? So we have 2 over 5 minus 5 over 1. And remember, in order to subtract fractions, you must have a common denominator. So I need to build equivalent fractions here. I already have a denominator of 5, and the other denominator, fortunately for us, is a number 1, which means I can easily find a common denominator just by taking the second fraction and multiplying it by 5 over 5. Remember, 5 over 5 is really 1, so what I'm really multiplying by is just 1. So I get 2 over 5 minus 25 over 5. And then combining the numerators will give me negative 23 over 5. Okay? Now, don't forget, if you have a calculator, all right, you can always do this on a calculator as well. So here's my calculator here. If it ever opens. Uh-oh, what's going on? Sorry about that. I had to pause the video here because things were going crazy and I finally got my calculator to work again. So what I was saying is, if you have a calculator, all right, and if you don't know where this button is, you can always email me. Some calculators are different. I can try to figure it out. But on this calculator here, all you have to do is type in, oh, I forgot the problem already, 2/5 minus 5. So 2 over 5 minus 5. Now, before I hit enter, I'm going to come over to here and hit math, which is the third row, first column. And I'm going to tell the calculator, option number 1, put the answer as a fraction. So when I hit enter again, I get negative 23 over 5. And that's exactly why calculators are so important and why you should read the manuals that come with them. But anyways, that is how we go ahead and we find equations for a line if we are given 2 points. In the next video, I'm going to show you how we interpret functions and then graphs of functions in the video after that. So have a good day.